I kicked my husband's work wife out of our home after she insulted me at my own dinner table, then discovered he'd actually had an affair with her. I thought our marriage was built on trust, but when I confronted him, layers of betrayal came to light. Now, I'm picking up the pieces for myself and my kids. Hi, my name is Julia, 36F, and my husband Ethan, 42M, and I have been together for a long time. We started our family later than most, so our two kids, Isabella, 7F, and Lucas, 6M, are still pretty young. I'm sharing my story because for the first time in our marriage, I'm truly afraid of what's going on between Ethan and his so-called work wife. Up until around a year ago, I never doubted Ethan or felt suspicious about him. Most of our married life has been spent living somewhat apart during the week, since Ethan's job is about an hour away and sometimes he stays in company housing. Still, nothing ever made me question his loyalty. That changed a year ago when he started to mention someone new at his job, Rachel. Every day, when Ethan came home, we had this routine of talking about our days, work issues, kids, just everything. But after Rachel joined his office, he started talking about her constantly, how funny she was, how much he enjoyed mentoring her, what a quick study she was. It was all fairly innocuous at first. He is Rachel's manager, and she was a newcomer. She's 29 now, there's a notable age gap. So his attention seemed like the supportive, big brother kind. But after a while, he started joking that Rachel was his work wife. I always kind of hated that term. Personally, it's just a weird dynamic to me. But when he explained it was because colleagues teased them for spending so much time together and said they'd make a cute couple, it gave me an awful feeling in my gut. I never thought Rachel and Ethan were close enough for that sort of office banter, or at least he'd never hinted at it before. A few months down the line, Ethan brought me as his guest to a couple of his work parties. Some of his women colleagues would drop odd comments to me, things that seemed innocuous but put together all took a certain shape. Like I'd hear that Ethan would answer his internal phone to Rachel with "Hey, beautiful," in front of anyone, or greet her with "Hey, sweetie, I'm not busy, always have time for you, how's my work wife, and you really shouldn't be so good looking." Apparently, this was common enough that more than one colleague mentioned it. Needless to say, I was steaming when we got home. We had a massive blowout. He flat out denied saying those things, said I was jealous and being dramatic. I couldn't believe his gaslighting. I shouted at him, asked if he ever even used sweet nicknames like that for me, not once in years of marriage. He just said he was friendly with everyone, and as his wife, I should be supportive of career. I was too angry to sleep next to him that night and sent him to the guest room. The next morning, after the kids were at school and we'd cooled off, Ethan asked to talk. I immediately wanted to know why his office teased him about a work wife when he's very obviously married. He told me that Rachel was young, inexperienced, and spent a lot of time shadowing him, more than most others. As a result, the mostly male crew teased him about spending so much time with her, and so, the work wife joke started. Rachel apparently also called him work husband. This only made me angrier. His colleagues knew about me, yet still nicknamed him and another woman as a couple. I started bawling out of sheer frustration, and Ethan finally started to apologize. I asked point blank if he had any feelings for Rachel. He denied it instantly, said she had a boyfriend and he never thought of her as more than a work acquaintance. I pushed back. I had noticed Rachel was never even cordial with me at work events, and now that felt pointed. He said I was reading too much into it, and said Rachel would never consider him romantically, given the age gap. I reminded him of how, when I used to work before having kids, he'd get possessive, telling me not to get too chummy with male coworkers, claiming they probably wanted more than friendship. But now I was just supposed to accept his work wife, and he wouldn't even be honest about it? I asked, what if the roles were reversed? He had no answer. He just averted his gaze and started to cry, apologizing again. He begged, actually got down on his knees, promising he'd do anything to earn my trust. If it makes you feel better, I'll quit my job, he said. I didn't know what to believe. In the end, I decided to give Ethan a chance. We both love each other and the kids. I wanted to believe we could move past this. We decided to go to marriage counseling, and to his credit, Ethan set boundaries at work. Friends from his office who'd friended me on Facebook told me he'd told Rachel to go to other female colleagues for help instead of coming to him for every little thing. I felt a bit better. Still, I wasn't satisfied, especially after I dug into Rachel's background. I Googled her, and yikes, she's been through 3 divorces already, which is wild for someone who's only 29. She moved to the States when she was 22, married an American, divorced, and then remarried and divorced 2 more times, all older guys. So clearly, age is not an issue for her. That didn't ease my worries one bit. 3 months went by, and things seemed to be smoothing out. But then last night, everything exploded again. It was date night, and I'd arranged for my dad to pick up the kids so Ethan and I could have the house to ourselves for once. When the doorbell rang, I was excited, thinking it was Ethan home early. Instead, he showed up on the doorstep with Rachel by his side, both soaked from the rain. My jaw dropped. Ethan explained her car had broken down, and he picked her up on his way home, because waiting for AAA during a thunderstorm would take hours, so he brought her to our place instead. I was livid. Couldn't he have called me? But I didn't want to be rude to a guest, so I offered Rachel a towel while Ethan went to change. I asked Rachel if she wanted to join for dinner. She nodded. I'd hoped for a nice dinner out with Ethan, but now, with Rachel there, I knew that was impossible, so I started hastily making pasta. When Ethan came down, Rachel piped up that she needed a bathroom. I offered the guest one, but she ignored me and asked Ethan if she could use the master. He agreed and led her upstairs. As soon as she was out of earshot, I hissed at Ethan that he should have at least asked before bringing Rachel into our home, especially on date night. He argued that he couldn't just leave her in the rain and thought I'd understand as a woman. I told him there were a million other options, like calling her a cab. Suddenly, Rachel started yelling for Ethan from upstairs, demanding a fresh towel. I shot him a glare, told him to keep prepping dinner, and went up myself. Rachel was half peeking out of my bedroom, smiling sheepishly, claiming she didn't want to bother me, so called Ethan instead. I told her, as politely as I could muster, that if she needed anything else while in my home, she should ask me directly. After she showered, we sat down for dinner. Rachel ignored me, plopped down next to Ethan, and when I said we were having pasta, she wrinkled her nose and laughed, making a crack about expecting something fancier. She went on to snicker. Is this what you serve Ethan every night after a long workday? I shot back that what I cooked for my husband was none of her business. She then outright told Ethan he deserved better, at which point I just couldn't take it anymore. I stood, demanded to know who the hell she thought she was, speaking to me like that. Rachel started yelling back at me, saying I was a lazy wife, bad mother, and that I sat on my ass all day because I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Ethan finally spoke up and told Rachel to cut it out, that she'd crossed the line. Rachel began telling Ethan he deserved someone better. I clenched my fists under the table. I wanted to slap her, but kept myself together. I stared her down and told her, if you were such a great wife, you wouldn't be divorced 3 times in 6 years. She went dead silent. I told her I knew all about her ex-husbands, older men just like Ethan, and accused her blatantly of being a gold digger. Rachel broke down in hysterics and accused me of being an evil witch for digging up her past. But I just felt victorious that my husband saw her secrets out in the open. I told her to get out. I literally kicked her out into the pouring rain, slamming the door even as she screamed and pounded on it. Over the intercom, I warned her I'd call the cops if she didn't leave. After she left, I was left shaking. I honestly don't even understand why she flipped out on me like that. Her ugly words still spin in my head. Ethan told me that while he got my reaction, he thought kicking her out in a storm was too cruel. That only made me angrier. I'd never allow someone to insult him in our home. So, Reddit, AITA for defending myself against my husband's work wife. Update 1. Hi everyone. Thank you for your comments and ideas. Taking your collective advice, I asked Ethan today to show me all his chats with Rachel. At first, he hesitated, questioning my reasons, but I insisted. Eventually, he relented. What I found in those messages was exactly what you all predicted. There were hundreds of texts. Most of Ethan's responses were professional, but Rachel was consistently flirty, and sometimes more. 4 months ago, she sent Ethan a suggestive photo of herself in a revealing dress. He replied asking why she'd send that, and told her she looked beautiful, but said she shouldn't send pictures like that in the future. She pouted in response, but didn't stop flirting. Nothing Ethan wrote seemed flirty, but it threw me that he'd kept this from me for months, especially since we'd already argued about her. He'd known how she acted with him, and kept me in the dark, even when I was plainly suspicious. It felt like gaslighting. I told Ethan I needed space and didn't want to talk. He pleaded nonstop, saying he never did anything, and begged me to think of our kids. He even told me I could talk to Rachel's boyfriend, Mark, if I wanted to prove nothing had happened between them. I haven't cried this hard since college. I am just worn out and lost, but I've decided to reach out to Mark to get the full truth before making any final decisions. Update 2. Thank you if you've made it this far. I sincerely appreciate all the kind advice and support. As planned, I messaged Rachel's boyfriend Mark on Facebook. He seemed surprised. I guess he didn't even know me or Ethan existed. After I explained that it was something serious about Rachel, Mark agreed to a quick lunchtime meetup in a public park near his work. I asked him not to mention the meeting to Rachel beforehand. He agreed, though he found it odd. Face to face, I apologized for the awkwardness and told him I wasn't sure it was my place to say anything, but felt he deserved to know what was really going on between Rachel and my husband. I showed him screenshots of their conversation and the suggestive picture. Mark's jaw dropped as he read the messages. He told me he had no idea Rachel was close to anyone at work, let alone my husband. He didn't know about the work wife jokes or how flirty she was at work functions. None of it. He went quiet for a while and told me that Rachel had become increasingly distant over the past year, and he blamed himself for not giving her enough time. But now he realized it wasn't his fault. He thanked me for letting him know, and though I don't know what will happen between them, it felt good to help someone avoid what I'd just experienced. As for Ethan, I've barely spoken to him in days. I get up, get the kids ready, drop them at school, then spend hours in my room crying. I pretend nothing's wrong around the kids. After talking to Mark, I feel a little clearer, a tiny bit lighter. I know what direction I need to take now. I'm considering staying with my parents for a while to heal. I want to move on, but I'm just so drained and unsure how to begin. Update 3. A lot has happened since the last update a week ago. Mark texted me a few days ago with the absolute worst confirmation. Rachel told him that she and Ethan had slept together once. I was stunned, sickened, honestly. All my worst fears had been confirmed. Mark explained that Rachel confessed to him. One evening, while working late, she admitted her feelings to Ethan, and they took things too far. Apparently, after that night, Rachel wanted to keep seeing Ethan, but he refused, saying he loved his family and felt guilty. Mark even sent me screenshots where Ethan begged Rachel to keep their fling a secret. It made Rachel angry, which explains her coldness to me at work parties and her nasty outburst the night she intruded into my home. Mark also told me Rachel had sent more explicit images to Ethan on Snapchat, and while he hadn't initially refused them, he finally blocked her after our fight, scared I'd find out. This was also why he hesitated when I wanted to check his chats. After hearing all this, Mark broke up with Rachel. For me, it's the last nail in the coffin. I can't excuse this, no matter how hard I try. Ethan cheated on me, emotionally and physically. I should have listened to the warnings, but I wanted to believe him. Now I'm living with my parents, who are just as furious as I am. My dad keeps telling me to leave Ethan for good. I'm grateful for their support, honestly. Tomorrow, I will get in touch with a lawyer. I want to be a better example for my children, and neither they nor I deserve a deceitful, cheating spouse and parent. It devastates me that my marriage has to end this way, but if there's one thing I promise, my kids and I will be okay. And I will rebuild stronger than before. This story ends right here. The story is a pretty clear illustration of how secrecy, dishonesty, and disrespect can unravel even the strongest seeming relationships. The choices everyone made led to inevitable consequences. Here is a question for you. What would you have done if your partner brought someone like Rachel into your home, even on your date night? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when someone else crossed a line in your relationship? Let me know below.